Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Easier Said Than Done podcast. Today, I've got for you the one and only Taha Hussain. Now, if you don't know who this guy is, that's because you've been living under a rock and not on LinkedIn at all. If there's one person on LinkedIn I recommend you follow and join, 80,000 other people following this guy? Follow Taha stuff, because if you just get a sense of how this man communicates, you will understand why he is so tremendously successful. This guy's had senior roles at Microsoft, at Yahoo, at SAP, you name it. He runs his own business now. He's got a phenomenal Substack newsletter, which is really, really good. You guys have to check it out. It's called The Conscious Leader. He's got he's got two top rated courses, the top engineer method, the top tech leader method. And his posts, I promise you, if you read any of Taha's posts on LinkedIn, you better be sitting down, because if you're not, he's going to make you sit down just to go like, what the heck? Wow, that was something else. So Taha, welcome, man. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
This is amazing. Thank you so much, Zubin. I'm going to take this section and take it everywhere from introduction forever. I think this is the
Dude,
best intro I've heard about me or anyone ever. Thank you so much.
Welcome to Easier Said Than Done with me, Zubin Pratap, where I share with you my journey from 37-year-old lawyer to professional software engineer. The goal of this podcast is to show you how to actually do those things that are easier said than done.
No, I mean it, man. Like I'm here gotten to know you a little bit, directly through our WhatsApp chats, and also indirectly through LinkedIn and stuff, and your newsletter. So I'm one of those people who truly believe there's not many good voices in the world. Like there's a lot of marketing BS out there, and you're one of the good voices, Taha, because I think, and that's why I wanted you on the show, is because you're an old guy like me. No, I'm just kidding. You and I have been around a little bit, right? We've been around before the hype cycles. We've been around before social media took off and took over the world. We've been around in a world where building careers came down to common sense, modeling what worked from people that had actually done it, observing success empirically, directly or indirectly, being put in context where there was no, mollycoddling and no, soothing. There was just reality, and you had to deal with it. And I think because you've grown up in that generation, we sort of see things a bit differently from how people are trained to see it now by social media. Would you agree?
I would agree that the way they're thought about these days is very different. It's more of a fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and we are chasing that, and the world is changing significantly faster. So that's one. But the point about, like, I want to go back to your point about defying the odds of what a journey looks like or what it looks like on LinkedIn and stuff, because that's not the path. That's never the path.
Mm-hmm.
And if we get stuck on it, then we have certain expectations. I'll talk about that today. I've been coaching people landing roles in this tough market, and the tough part is not about clearing the interview, but it's more about overcoming what happened.
Right.
And those things,
After the interview?
after they've left a company or something in the past, there is things which are causing issues.
Blockages,
And I look
yes.
at these patterns. So one of the things that I do as a software engineer is I look at pattern. Pattern is bound to repeat. It will always repeat. And
100%.
so just like a doctor will look at symptoms, hey, you have this, you have this, you have this, these three things have been happening. You must have this, right? And then you try that. So I've been doing that for 3.5 years now in this tough market. And like I love the amazing insights. And I've been writing that on Substack. So yesterday I wrote the upcoming newsletter for this weekend. I'm really excited for that. It's in two parts though. The part one is good, but I'm waiting for part two. I'm gonna
Yeah,
write
that's
today
well,
for next week. It's
fantastic.
amazing, and one of the part, and the insight is amazing. The part that I like, I'll talk about the pattern today that I learned about this. But one of the parts that I want to say is that your journey, man, from the lawyer toward what you're doing and now what you're doing, it's phenomenal, and that's what people are looking forward to. Everyone wants evidence. Can this be done? If it can be done, then people have courage to do it too, right? So
100%.
thank you for coming forward, making an effort, talking about it.
Well, Taha, thank you. That's very kind of you for saying, but it's really interesting that you use the P word, the pattern word, right? Because with my students, and you and I look at very different sort of people, different people at different stages in their career, right? You tend to look at already people who are already engineers, junior, IC, whatever, but they're in engineering. I look at people who are like, like I was 10 years ago, right?
Mm.
People in other careers who are feeling a bit trapped, wanting to get out. And the P word comes up over and over again. I have to constantly hold up. I tell them, I said, my job is not, teaching you to code and stuff. That's frankly the easy part. My job ends up being holding up the mirror and say, are you seeing this pattern? And then are you seeing how your habitual decision-making or observation on the world, the sort of the image you're imposing on the world is what's driving decisions over and over again that bring you back to the same position you're trying to escape from. There's this, like you said, it repeats. There's a loop going on, right? It's that human beings are programmable. We are programmed, and we get programmed by experiences. And that programming shows up all the time in future experiences that look similar to the previous one, even if they don't have to be, because we're always in a decision tree, right?
Hi, if you want a no BS insight into how to change your career, whether to code or something else, and how to actually get job opportunities in tech, then please subscribe and like. It's no BS because I have zero incentive to mislead you. I just want to help you and give you tons of value so that you will consider working with me to get to your next career. Take a look at the description text below to learn more about the training I offer. Also, you may find my newsletter interesting. I've linked to it in the description. I only mail about 2, maybe 3 times a week, usually around industry trends, things I've learned from other developers, the common habits and pitfalls that I see and might prevent them from actually succeeding, case studies and insights from that. So you'd probably find it quite useful. And hey, if you don't, you can always unsubscribe later. No problems. But I do post content here regularly. And by subscribing and liking and hitting that notification bell, you will get to know when I post new industry insights for you. You'll also know within about 3 seconds if you want to learn more, but at least you won't miss out. Oh, and please follow me on LinkedIn too. I pretty much post there every single day. Just look for my name, Zubin Pratap. All right, so please like and subscribe to this channel, and let's get back to the episode.
Human beings are programmable. We are programmed, and we get programmed by experiences. And that programming shows up all the time in future experiences. Every moment there's a fork in the road. And if you choose the same fork you've always chosen, you're going to come back to square one every time. Emotionally, financially, career-wise, it's always going to be the way. And it doesn't matter whether you're a coder, you're not a coder, it's the same thing. So pattern recognition and dealing with the individual's experience is why I do the personal coaching stuff. Because I tried doing the courses thing and it wasn't working for me. It wasn't giving me the kind of impact I wanted to have in people's lives until I started speaking to the people. It was having a dialogue, before I could really make that difference. So, thank you for saying that, because it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. Now let's talk about, before we dive too deep into some of the other methods that you talk about, let's talk about what's on everyone's mind at the moment, right? We're in a moment here in the latter half of 2025 where it appears that people are not very optimistic. Things in the US, the economy aren't great, the jobs market, the numbers got revised, interest rate is high, uncertainty is high about the future, or certainty is low, depending on how you want to look at it. AI is taking over lots of, or appearing to make infringement on lots of knowledge work. Why should people be listening to people like you and I? Or at least, leave me out of this. Why should people be listening to leaders like you on what they should be doing in their career when tomorrow looks so uncertain?
But the patterns will repeat, even these the same patterns.
I agree. But what would you say to someone saying, hey, I don't even know, I'm an engineer today. Let's just see, because that's most of your audience, right? I'm an engineer today. Do I want to be an engineer? Because I get this question a lot, saying, why did you leave from law to engineering? We want to try and leave engineering, right? What would you tell people that who are not optimistic about engineering? I'm extremely optimistic about engineering, which is why I'm staying in it. But other people who never sort of observe these patterns, there are some that are less optimistic. What would you say to them?
I think before I can answer that question, I'll tell you a bit about my philosophy over here. I'm one of those people. Actually, I'll tell this incident. This is a funny incident. I always try to break rules. That's just my thing. So I did 1 year of hiring. The next year I said, you know what? I want to hire like better talent. How do I do that part? So one thing I realized that I want people who are serious about just engineering. So the next job description I sent, HR rejected it. The job description on the top, it started in capital letters. If you took computer science in college because it's a safe career choice, this job is not for you. And HR said, you can't put that.
Right. Of course they did, yeah.
Yes, that's okay. I'll ask them in private then, because I don't want people who are just coming here for 9 to 5 job. I understand people need that. I do understand this part. I just don't want to work with them. That's very simple as that. Another part I'll explain, my son is doing mechanical engineering. I don't care what he does actually. He has been making Legos since the age of 5. And you give him any piece of, and he's been making Legos when he was 7 years old for like 15 plus people. These Legos, he would spend 8 hours. You have to tell him, hey, go back to bed. And then you wake up, he's again making it, right?
Right.
So there is no 9 to 5, no like, hey, I'm burning out. Hey, you know what? I need promotion. Nothing else, right? This is just something I love doing, right? So he started college last week. And so as he was going and I was saying, what you're taking, he's saying, I'm taking this. And I'm like, I want you to focus on one thing. He said, what? I don't know mechanical engineering, but I know you can find your Lego in it. I want you to find what that Lego was. For me, when I went to college, I took on computer science. I never did it before. My first day in university, I went to the lab and I told the lab guy that computer is not working. And he said, it's a brand new Pentium. I was like, yeah, but it's not working. So he turned it on. It did turn on. Next day, when I learned about computers more, I learned and I was pressing the floppy disk button. It was like pointed out, right? And
Those
so that
days.
was me. Yeah. But then I was coding. I was just coding. And next semester, there were people we got assignments and they were just focusing on assignments. And I was doing assignments and I was like, that's boring. And I was doing my own thing. Then I learned Visual Basic. I was like, wow. So I made Minesweeper, calculator, right? And people are still writing code in DOS and all. I'm writing code in Windows doing the applications. And my projects have to fail. Like if I finish my project, I didn't like that part. So next semester assembly, I took like making a game over serial cable. Everybody was writing a TSR. I was like, oh, that's boring. That's like 5 lines. Right? So the idea is that you're not doing things because you want to become successful.
Yeah.
You can pick up anything. As long as you like it, you will find ways to make money. Money making is a different business. You can be really good at something and still not make money.
Not make money. 100%. Absolutely.
Right?
That's 100%.
Money making is different. And then so learn that part too, right? That's different. So
It's a different
yeah. So to answer your question, where we are going, right? If I were to say that, if you, in any like we were riding horses, then cars, and something else, there will be something you will find. You can't say that, hey, I like horses, so because horse is alive and all of that. If you change your mindset, car has horsepower, it's not alive. But I would argue that, hey, some cars are alive.
Yeah. I think ultimately you can't fight the change, and nor should you, because the change brings opportunities that weren't there before, right? And those who are looking for it are going to find it. And a lot of folks who come to me like, oh, don't you think software engineering is dead? And I'm like, maybe, I said software engineering, as far as I can see from the history, and I've only been an engineer, 6 years, 5 years, something. As far as I can see, it's died 3 or 4 times. Okay, it's been died and reborn 3 or 4 times. The way software engineering's practice has changed over the years. If you read how, I remember reading, what was that book? Paul Allen's book about his story with Bill Gates and the founding of Microsoft. The way they did programming back then is completely different from what we do now. Like as a practice, as a trade, as a craft. And so that's just going to happen. The tools will change, the technology will change, it'll change the practice, it'll change the craft. Nowadays sculptors use complex alloys and resins and stuff like that to build works of art. Back in the day, it was marble and wood and some stone. Like, how you express yourself will change, and it'll change the profession. But that's not something necessarily to be afraid of. And if anything, I think, I do strongly agree with you that people with the wrong motives will, even if they succeed, could be unhappy. Because I was that person for a very long time. I succeeded at goals that were set for me culturally and socially, and my ego, be a lawyer, go to this kind of law school, blah, 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 blah. And I was, while I did enjoy that world, it wasn't right for me. And I succeeded in it. And that's a really strange trap to be in, where you're succeeding at something you don't want to succeed at, or you don't want to keep getting it better at the thing that you don't love. And so, there is that trap also, that doing what comes naturally to you, what you're naturally intrigued by and interested by, and then learning how to build a life around that is probably a wiser strategy. In fact, the people don't realize that when I do my private coaching thing, I only work with very few people at a time, but I've said no to far more people who are willing to pay me for the full year. I've said no to far more people than I've said yes. For the same reason that you said, Taha, which is I don't necessarily want to work with someone who just wants to get rich quick, who just wants to have their ego, delivered in a certain way, or if their goals are not what I can help them deliver, right? So I'm glad that you're sort of emphasizing that message again for people at this moment, because when I remember the GFC, when people get wobbly, they want to escape the pain of their current uncertainty by saying that, okay, this is not the right path. Then they think that a change that they control is better than a change they don't control. And that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. Now, let's talk also about, one of the things you said to me that really struck me, because again, it's very meta, and a lot of your principles are meta that I see. You apply them to the engineering world, but the fundamental meta principles, in my view, right? You said that, your goal is to help people become someone they want to be, right? That's a simple set of words, but it's extremely profound if you ask me. What have you noticed about why this is so hard? Why is it so hard for someone to become who they want to become?
So I'll show you how I do that part.
Sure.
I'm going to give a very high level example that I can talk about. I don't want to become all lectury or like preachy here. So I'm going to give some example to think about. We need a direction all the time.
Mhm.
Human beings without direction is not a good thing. It's like an animal just grazing grass. It's not a good thing. There needs to be a direction as to anything we're doing. We need the direction. If we don't have the direction, then naturally our body is designed to create anxiety.
Correct.
We don't know where we're headed. Something may not be unsafe. So we need a direction for that. So number one part is that if you don't put a goal out there and you're feeling anxiety, put a goal out there. Now, if you feel the anxiety, it's because you're not taking action towards that part. So you need to solve that part. The problem over is that many people think about, hey, I want to do this piece, but they're not taking the action. Okay. And then they've been taught about build habits, all of that. I can tell you, I've tried to build habits even for like 6 months. Then I stopped doing it for 1 week and it did not build back again.
It's gone. Yeah.
Okay. So, but there are habits which I keep going back to no matter what happens. So I'm going to talk about those pieces to how I built that part. Then I do it with other people. So the way you want to think about is that we always work with people. This is why people are very important. People. If you think
Correct.
about religiously, there are leaders.
Correct.
Right. If you look at, all the talk about people arguing, it's about which president you like or not like.
Correct.
Right. So it's about, we don't buy ideas. I wrote about this recently. We don't buy ideas. We basically trust people.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a long time back. There's a movie came out, Fire, in India. It's called Fire. It's about lesbian. And that was a taboo in India, obviously, at that time. I think it still is, but at that time, like 20 years ago, was really huge.
Yeah.
And they were covering on news, Z News. I bet if it was done in Pakistan, it would be a worse situation.
Yeah.
Right. And what happened was there was this guy coming out in broad daylight from a theater. And he just threw this ball of fire inside. And he just ran out. And this reporter asked him, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And he says, because Thackeray says so. There is somebody called Thackeray, and he said something, and that's why it's going to happen. That's it. Doesn't matter like what the idea is, right? So even they're educated people, right? They'll do the same thing.
Very true.
We work people. So understand this part. When we understand this part, we don't reject the idea. You want to work with it versus against it. If it works with that, let's do that. So one way to think about is that people work with role models. And one objection I used to have when I was growing up is that I don't need a role model. Because if I take a role model, then I won't grow beyond that. Right? And what's happening is that this is ego in disguise. Because ego is about comparison. So in a way, you're also threatened by a role model. Right?
Yeah.
So I realized as when I was growing up teenager, Arnold used to be a role model without even thinking about it. Like I watched just Conan the Barbarian, and I was like, wow. Like that scene in the beginning, if I don't remember, he's like pushing that thing, and everybody keeps dying, and he grows old. He's the only one pushing it, and he's pushing it. Everybody's gone.
Yeah.
And that scene, I just remember it. Then Terminator 2, I just became a fan of this guy.
Yeah.
Right. So what I noticed was I was 15 years old, and I was doing bodybuilding.
Right.
And I used to live in a very slum kind of an area in Karachi, and the gym was next to a nadi, which is smelly and all. And the dumbbells were like those things you put in construction, and then they have these tins with cement in them. So now you have those dumbbells made with cement.
Right.
So you're doing push-ups or barbells with that, right? Swinging, all of that. So that's how I was doing. Why? Because Arnold, I want to do that part. Now, Arnold also came from Austria to America on his own, and he has stuff. I also came from Karachi towards that. He had a different journey. He did different things to come over, and different things, but that motivation kept there. And so throughout my life, I've been hitting gym. No matter what happens, I'll go to the gym. I'll do bodybuilding. Then he has thing about his principle is that learn things first, master them, then break them. You have to break them. That's my rule as well. It doesn't matter what, I'm going to break the rule, right? No matter what you do, be excellent at that. His dialogue, I'll be back, is the most famous dialogue in the history of Hollywood. And it
Absolutely.
cannot be said in any other way than his Austrian robotic accent. It has to be.
Correct. Correct.
Right? Then he became a movie star and he did really well in that. When people say, if Arnold is on the set, you have to bring your A game because he
Yeah.
would not leave you without that.
Yeah.
Then he became a governor.
Oh,
You look at this
smart.
part, right? Yeah. So what happens that, so I'm just writing this piece.
Yeah.
And then what happened is 2012, I'm giving another piece to think about. And one or two more pieces quickly. One is that I thought about James Bond.
Right.
I watched Skyfall, and I was like, it's James Bond, like this guy. You know, I never like wearing watches. Like I'm wearing a watch right now, but I don't like wearing watches because it's itchy and all of that, and you go through airport, take it out, like shit. So I don't wear them. But then I want to wear them because they look nice too, like accessory. I want to adapt them. Once I embrace a James Bond identity,
Yeah.
you know, in Skyfall, he's standing in some hotel in China and he's butt naked and he's shaving with straight razor, wearing an Omega watch. Nothing
Right.
else, but the guy wears his watch. Right? Guess what happens? Each time I think about not wearing a watch, I wear a watch because
Interesting.
I'm James Bond, right? Is that mindset. So when you allow that, what happens? I also noticed something. I also started going to the gym even more. I started doing HIIT workout. Now, Anand doesn't do HIIT workout.
Right.
I started doing HIIT workout because this James Bond is athletic. I even bought a suit called James Shark from Boss. And I wore it
Right.
at Yahoo's party, and I looked really really good because I had lost weight, I was muscular, and all of that. Right now, these days, like 3 years ago, I've been struggling in writing. I was like, what do I take so I don't fear about writing? And writing stuff, you have to write, and what do people think about you? You can. So
It's
what I
hard.
did was I started reading a book called On Writing from Stephen King.
Stephen King. Yeah, I read it. Fantastic. Yeah.
Right? You know what? I started writing like him because I want to write like him. And he has habits. He says you need to go and sit in one place, just like coding. Sit in one place, wait there, and then write like 2,000 words. So he has these habits. And what's happening is that I was trying to build them, right? But they weren't building. When I think about Stephen King and listen to him more and more, what happens is that I start acting like him. Now what happens is that I can even go beyond Stephen King. If I go halfway there, right, that would be amazing. Right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, we have to break the roots. So we
Yeah.
learn from Stephen King
Yeah.
and then we break those rules. See, that's the idea. That's the goal you have to think about, right? So those
And
ideas coming in.
so on that, so why do you think it is? Because something you said, I think, describes what I observed as well. But I mean, I do any sort of coaching is about taking someone from who they are to who they want to be, incrementally, step by step. You're directionally correct, moving towards that goal, right? Why is it that people find it so hard to take action? Because the observation that I've had after years of doing this with people, changing career to software engineering from whatever they're doing, is actually everybody knows what they need to do. But they always think there's some special secret that somebody else had, there's some unique formula, and they're always looking for the next hit of dopamine rather than doing the thing they already know they should do. What is your analysis of human nature that makes that behavior so common, of the default state?
I'll say this answer a different way. Last week, I had this girl, you were talking, this girl came up and she was going through some tough time because she had lost her job 10 months ago and she was like really down. So that's the real coaching about changing the energy.
Correct.
And so what I do is that I've learned how to orchestrate the emotions. So emotions, what happens is that we have several of those emotions. A person to change their behavior, you have to orchestrate emotions in a certain way. For example, if I want to change someone's behavior, they have to feel guilty. People don't change their behavior without guilt. Oh, it makes sense. We'll change the behavior. It doesn't work like that. So last week, for example, there was one girl, she came up and she was depressed, she was that, and then she was talking about her weight, and then et cetera, et cetera. Talking about what she's eating, etc. So apparently, she eats 2 Lindt chocolate bars at night, and she
I
had
can see the
gained
trend.
weight. She had gained weight. So I asked her that you're worried about your weight. It's an obvious solution, right? So I said, have you thought about not eating chocolate? She got mad. She said, it's not the chocolate. I have
What?
childhood trauma. And if I don't eat it, then I feel that. And if I don't eat it, I'll get even fatter. So it's not the chocolate. I'm thinking she has found a reasoning to keep on doing what she wants to do.
Can
You
explain
understand this
everything.
part?
Right. You
The
can
number
explain
one
it.
part that I tell people, if you really care about yourself, you have to also be okay that you have to say no to things which you daily care about. So number one, I tell people is you want to zoom out, and in your identity, I want you to build a principle.
Yeah.
Reasons don't matter. If you steal, that's it. It's wrong.
Yeah.
Why you stole, somebody was hungry, you didn't eat for 5 days, etc., etc. You can say whatever you want to, but that doesn't justify it. unfortunately, right? So when you say reasons don't matter, then you basically say, hey, eating chocolate is bad, right? So you stop justifying it, right? But the thing is that your emotional one wants that. So one of the part that I tell people is that if your energy is already in a low energy, you need actually some help to somebody to help you get emotion energy unstuck and release that. So I'll give people two things. So as an example, the same lady that came up, she basically had a job and I saw her resume. She was not getting calls. Her resume told me that she's not communicating. She basically was everything. And her resume was very confusing. Are you a team lead? Are you a manager? It's not like clear. She's also
Right.
using I could see she did not brand herself really well. Now she is saying that I left a previous job because I did a lot of work and my boss did not promote me, promoted somebody else. And that's politics. And I did all the work. And so I left the company and now I don't have a job for 10 months.
Mm.
So the issue over here is that she's stuck at an incident and she doesn't know how to deal with that. Thing is that as you go in life, people will touch you, right? Imagine you're going through some subway station, somebody hitting you. Are you
Right,
getting
right.
mad? Yeah, I mean, they drop something on you, but yeah, it happened, but you have to let that go because you can't do anything
Correct.
about this. So
Correct.
the idea is that finding a way to release the energy the right way. So if we say, I don't care about this, or it doesn't go away. So here's what needs to happen. What people don't realize, the reason you're angry or stuck is because you are first mad at yourself. Why did I let it happen?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't admit that, you're not going to fix a solution either. She was stuck at it, or she was not learning how to influence herself. And
Right.
that's causing issues in her branding and representing herself and in interviews. Because she's not stuck at it. I'm not going to learn this without even thinking about this. So I
Right.
told her this, just say it out loud. Because when you say out loud, your emotional mind listens. So I said, say it out loud. I forgive myself for the decisions I've made that led me to this point.
Right.
When you say it out loud, your mind listening, and it takes effect slowly. Then you want to detach from the other person too. So think about what they did and what you didn't like that moment. So bring that emotion and then say, your behavior is not my responsibility.
Correct.
So you let go of that. So each time it's coming up, because mind works on called object permanence. So you keep on thinking, it becomes like magnetizing it, right?
Yeah.
So the
Same.
loop will again play. When it plays
Correct.
again, you have to intentionally say these two things again. So you say it 3-4 times.
100%.
Go
Hey,
ahead.
who are listening to what Taha is saying, I want you guys to really take on board what Taha is saying, because this is not specific to engineering or this or that. This is actually the human experience. And, I keep telling my students, it's not your mind, it's the mind. The mind does this object fixation, the object permanence, the tendency to self-flagellate, to beat yourself up, the tendency to always replay a negative past scenario and say, I could have done this, why didn't I do this?
Hey, hope you're enjoying this episode. Listen, I bet you're tired of the social media BS, you're confused and overwhelmed, and all you want is for someone to just show you a clear path to a coding career, right? We get it. My partner Brian and I, we changed to code in our 30s, and we can help you do it too. Brian and I have done all sorts of engineering work from startups to Google, and now we've built an exclusive private mentorship program designed to get you from beginner to professional developer. Whether you've done a coding bootcamp, you have a computer science degree, or you're starting from zero, it doesn't matter. We'll build you a step-by-step and customized plan, not just for the coding stuff, but for the entire career change process. Look, I'll be honest, the program is not easy and it's not short. But if you do the work, you'll get results that will change your life, if that's what you want. So go to parsity.io/inner circle or find any of the links in the show notes, and you can schedule a free call with us. Speak to you then.
That in self-directed anger, that inner critic, that other inner coach, these are all universal attributes of the human mind. And I don't want anyone to think that you just say some mantra and it's gone. It's a forever practice. It's just like going to the gym, and Taha talks about always, you always need to go to the gym and stuff. You do need to, in your mental gym, have weights around your own self-narrative, your own, inner mastery, and constantly practice as a lifestyle these habits, these counter responses to the negative, impacts of life. Like if you're a planet and you're going to get hit by comets all the time, you just have to deal with the fact that comets are going to keep flying at you, right? That's just how it is, and you've got to adapt and be resilient to it. So, pay attention to what Taha is saying, because you'll notice that even at a very senior engineering level that Taha is at, it's all about mastering your inner world. It's about having control of your inner world and about the thoughts you think. So Taha, with that in mind, I do want to share with you some interesting sort of anecdotes because they're very similar, even though you're dealing with someone far more advanced in their career at the coding level. And I'm, dealing with people who want to enter coding. It's the same pattern. Back to that word again. It's the same pattern. I've had people come in who will fight to the last breath to protect their choices, right? Even though you can establish a clear causal connection between the choices and the results they're living, because there is cause and effect in the universe. It's a principle of physics, right? And there could be people who are, very busy. There could be people who are parents, and they've always got the reasons why they can't change anything, but they want to change life. And I keep telling them, your life, your circumstances, your career, your relationships will not change unless you change. Like there has to be a cause that then triggers the downstream effect of the change you want. The downstream world is not going to change until things upstream change. It's just not going to happen. It defies laws of physics. So I'm really glad that you're sort of reinforcing that message for a lot of people out there, because I think people want. I keep telling folks, you guys all want to go to heaven. You just don't want to die to get there. That's the problem, and that's the real difficulty with what you guys want. So,
I heard a dialogue about this one.
uh-huh.
I'm watching a show called Yellowstone these days on Netflix. Amazing. I'm watching it for foreshadowing. It has very good foreshadowing stuff in it. So anyway,
Uh-huh.
so this guy in it, cowboy, he kills another cowboy. Before he kills him, he
Is this the
says,
Kevin Costner one, or is this?
"Yeah, Kevin Costner one."
I've seen the images. I haven't watched it. Yeah. Mhm.
This guy's about to shoot this guy, and he says, "For the record, I've read about heaven. There is no heaven." And then he shoots.
Wow, what a crushing thing to tell someone, and that's hilarious. Yeah, no, I've heard good things about the show. I really need to find some time to watch it. I've heard really good things about that show. So Taha, a question for you, because I want to sort of, I'm mindful of time for the listeners as well. So, you know, do you find that a lot of people come to you, because I know in both the top engineer method and the top tech leader method, you're focused on certain types of engineers with a certain kind of track record already, or even if they don't feel they have a track record in the conventional sense, you're looking at engineers with some level of experience prior. Have you found that? Are you finding that most people continue to fixate on the thing that they're most familiar with, namely the coding? Because I noticed that a lot of your public messaging is, hey, there is a lot more to this game of success. Exactly what you said earlier. Making money is a different set of skills. Your message is, guys, climbing up the career ladder is about all these other things that no one ever talks about, but it has a profound impact every day. Are you finding that people tend to fixate on the coding and technical excellence part and forget about
Yeah, I
everything
mean,
else?
people are so I have both kind of people who come to me. So there are people who come to me and say that I am more on the people side,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not a great engineer,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm an average engineer, and with my people skills, I people like me and they want me around, they want me here. It also works for me because I want to work 9 to 5, and it works for the guy.
Yeah.
So that's there as well. Then there are part people who are about all technical and coding because they have found their Lego.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't noticed, people who work really with engineering, whether you call it bias or not, or data IC, a lot of people are neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And so with that, if you like my son, if you like something and you just like that, if you like that food, you're only going to eat that food and nothing else. And you
Right.
want more simplistic things. Like sometimes I've seen people like they only do like eat just white rice, nothing. Right. And that's not wrong. It's just a food. But this is how they find taste in it.
Right.
Right. I also find some taste differently. Anyway, so when we think about this, some people want their work to be plain, like plain
Mm-hmm.
rice. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their preference. Who are we to decide? So the issue over here is that you want everyone to march like the same.
Right.
Look right and tuck. Everyone should use indentation like this because everyone wants. So it doesn't work. It is not that fun. I'm one of those people. If everything is going fine, I'm going to break the rule. I'm again going to change the standards. I'm going to say a new standard.
Right.
That's it. I don't care. The new standard. That
Right.
places I don't care. So people will stick back to what they. A
Right.
good either finds out who wants to be where and helps people accordingly.
And so what kind of person is it that you over the years have observed? What is the kind of person, how would you describe the attributes of the person that realizes, hey, what I'm doing is not working, the things that I don't know that I need to know to get to the next level? How would you describe that sort of person? Who is that person?
Who is stuck or who wants to be the next?
What is it? What are the attributes of the person who's willing to accept that, hey, I need help?
I see. Oh yeah. So I've seen. So generally, this is when people come. right? And then you can find patterns. They will come and spill out everything. They will become very vulnerable. So this lady I helped last year, she came, I was in Australia at that time, in Gold Coast. And she came to me and she said, hey, I'm very pouty. I don't have stories that where I work with multiple teams. I work with Facebook for before that. I worked with this company, but even though they were big brand names, I did not do much over there. I only got average ratings. And now I'm having issues with my technical lead. And then so I said, okay. And then she went away for 2 months. She said, I'm going back here and there. And then she came back and then she signed up. And the first thing I have a message from her, first thing she came back, she said, I came back on vacation. And again, a very pouty message from her. Right. So what happens is that because people don't take action when they don't accept they have a problem. Once you accept they have a problem, then they take action. The issue in accepting a problem is also very human. We have not been told how to process guilt. When you say, hey, I lack something, then you're going to feel guilty, right? Hey, I did something wrong. So people don't want to go there because they don't know how to get out of that. And if you
Right.
can get out of that, right, because you caused some bad action or didn't do some action, for example, and you didn't resolve that in your head and you let it happen, like in your mind, okay, yeah, I admit it.
Right.
You are now going to feel shame.
Right.
Shame is that as a person, you are bad. Guilt is the action was bad because you did not resolve that. Now you're stuck. So people don't even go there. Like they don't even go there. Right. As the example about that lady is eating 2 chocolate bars. She knows because she's not going there is because she doesn't want to deal with the guilt she already done. This is why I tell people that tell yourself, I forgive myself for the decision I made so far. So you let that go.
And
Once you accept it, then you can take something. So guilt processing, I think, I would say if somebody wants to learn anything today to program their emotional state, if they can take action, is to learn how to process guilt.
interesting. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
teach this in identity programming as an engineer who wants to become a top engineer, the one who wants to things like Lego, and also teach the skill as to how to demand. So one of the things Arnold said, imagine you going to the gym, working out for 4 hours because he used to work out 4 hours, and then
Yeah.
not eating well and not sleeping. It is equal to working very hard, and when it comes to getting paid, not negotiating what you want to get paid. So that was
Right.
wasted. So when you work, you also want to get paid because that drives more energy as well. Money is always good. It's how you use it. So people
Absolutely.
have guilt against money as well. So one of the folks who come to me who want to do something but then they don't come is because they feel like they have some fear of money.
People do. Yeah.
Yes. So you want to also work on that money programming, and that is through this guilt stuff as well. So
It's
top engineer, top tech leader both have this in the first 4 lessons. It tells you how to program it.
it's so interesting that so several things you said that I think you talked about identity engineering and you also talked just now about how it's the first, four sort of or the first 4 steps in your program. So it's exactly the same, and I didn't know about this about you. It's exactly the same in a coaching program because, and I call it inner state engineering.
I like that.
You know, our inner state just decides a lot of actions, right? And if we're not self-aware enough to know how we're feeling in the moment and how we act with those feelings, if we don't observe those patterns, we are unable to break those patterns. Right? It comes from that self-awareness first, but it's a form of inner state engineering. And then later on, when they learn the coding stuff, they understand why there's a double meaning to the state engineering and your inner state, right? So it's so foundational, Taha, because there's no point diving into the technical stuff that you think you need right now without fixing the underlying cause of why you don't already do the things you know you do have to do. So because giving you more things that you then know you have to do is not going to help when you don't already do the one that you're supposed to do and you don't. There's a blocker there. So it's really fascinating you said that. And by the way, I love that you use the irony analogy because one of my favorite books of all time was his Total Recall. It's a big book. But if you haven't read it, you will love it. It is a phenomenal autobiography. I think it's one of the best that and Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run, I think are my favorite autobiographies of all time.
Total Recall. I watched the movie.
But he named his book the same thing.
One with three.
But he named the book the same thing because it's his autobiography.
Total Recall. He writes on LinkedIn. He has a newsletter.
Yeah,
Motivation.
we've been doing sort of a motivational and sort of performance kind of content for about 10, 12 years now. A lot of his comments and speeches, he talks about the 6 rules. He's fantastic. He's really amazing as an individual. So look, before we wind up, I'm going to just ask you the question bluntly, and you tell me how much you're comfortable to talk about. Okay, I'm sure you use as our listeners are wondering, what is Taha's method?
My method is, I'll simply describe it. I've tried every other research method people talk about,
Uh-huh.
frameworks and giving feedback and doing this, doing that, doing this. I've tried all of that and I've seen why it doesn't work. Researchers are not doing it. They're observing people. They don't know what's happening inside. So when I
Exactly.
try that in myself, and I'm a researcher myself across people, I built my own methods, which basically take what researchers have done and find that missing ingredient and do it the right way and then show it to you. So I take that and I mix emotional intelligence into it because everything we do is based on emotional intelligence. And that's Taha's method. It's my own way of doing things.
Fantastic. No, that's really great. And I think this is why I love speaking to people who actually work with individuals at an individual level. There's a certain depth of perspective that comes from actually having that bilateral discussion that doesn't come with just, putting a course up. And nothing wrong with putting the courses up and stuff. But if you don't actually speak to the people who are trying to learn from you, you don't learn what they need to learn. It's
That's
a
right.
it's a
Yeah.
feedback loop.
This is
I
why
mean,
you have to keep on doing it, right? So I used to coach 12 people at a time. Now I'm coaching less than six because I want to spend more time writing newsletters
right.
and I want to write some book as well. Now, I want to go back to that part about that what Taha's method is, right? So I talked about it takes what people talk about, like it frameworks and all, or what we understand at a high level from a conscious level. This is why I have
Yeah.
something called conscious leader because I want to expand our consciousness.
Yeah. That's your
Now,
newsletter
that's
and stuff.
yeah, that's one part, right? So this is what Taha's method is. I'm going to tell you now what Taha using Taha's method. What is Taha's method?
Okay.
I'm a kind of a guy who likes to put his name in front of his inventions. That's it.
Why
Nothing
not?
else. And
Why not?
everything is top that I do. So this is why it's everything is top engineer, top tech leader.
Good feat.
Right?
I'm trying to, maybe you can support me in this. I'm trying to coin Zubin's law. And Zubin's law is that the time spent prompting will exceed the time spent implementing in vibe coding. So, so
That's
you
good.
can,
I'll tell you what. Here's how this works. Again, I'm going to tell you because I'm going to accept my emotional intelligence. Say this is how my body and my mind works.
uh,
I actually don't care about a definition. That comes later on. When I
uh,
will look at, hey, what do I do? And I'll just put that over there.
right.
Doesn't matter whatever invention I have. I'm going to put Taha in front of it. That's me. See,
So
that's the thing.
that can be Taha's naming convention.
Yes, that's and then any product and stuff you're doing like this, like engineer stuff, you have to put a name in something that keeps me honest that I have to provide that service like that. I have to be honest towards that. Right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to there's a in my top tech leader, the first lesson of ownership, which is we all need to let go
Right.
of this energy inside us, right? I think everyone should get, even though it is part of a paid program. I have made that free for everyone because I think and it's a complete lesson, meaning you don't need to buy the course to get
Right.
value out of it.
Right.
It's a full-fledged course for 80 minutes. You watch that, people have left reviews, see how they have changed their life. Right?
Yeah.
It's all about releasing energy and it uses emotional intelligence as such. It doesn't tell you about do this, do that. It will teach you how you can program yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I think everyone should watch that ownership course. It will help them understand this piece.
So, question on that, and we'll link to all of this, obviously. What I find that a lot of people, because I have similar stuff around the, first build yourself before you build your skills, then you build your career. Yourself, skills, career, and broadly in that sort of order. I find a lot of people like, no, I don't need all that mindset inner woo stuff. Just show me the thing that I came here for, which is learn to code. In my case, right, and in your case, it could be getting
Mm,
the
mm.
or whatever. And they don't realize that yeah. So I guess my question for you is: A, do you see that? And B, how do you respond to people who don't realize that they're diagnosing the symptom, not the problem, or they're attacking the symptom, not the problem?
So I faced it last year with one guy.
Mhm.
Then I had another person who came recently. The first one that I had last year was this person who wanted to become principal. And he
Mhm.
had 20 plus year experience working only at Cisco systems, but hasn't become principal. So when I was
Right.
talking to this person, I realized this person likes to coast mostly. Basically, he has been coasting. He just wants to get to his couch, right? Live a life like I'm here, supporting my children. So nothing wrong with that. But I think is that what ended up happening, he said that every year there's a principal committee that sits and they decide who to like promote into it and you have to present it. And so
Right.
he shared the presentation deck with me in an Excel file, etc., etc. It's all of that. So I said, hey, let's work on these things. Let's talk about what you're doing. He said, so after a few sessions, I realized this person actually is just saying things, but he does not want to do any of that. Basically, for him to get promoted, he has to take a project, look at the opportunity, right? Go and do something, then come back and say, I tried, it did not work, right? This person is just sitting every meeting. He's not doing any. I said, hey, what's going on? It's been like 3 sessions already. And he's like, you're going to build a presentation, right? I said, are you thinking I'll build a presentation that you'll go present, get promoted? He said, yes. I said, dude, how will that work?
Yeah.
He's like, because I'll tell you what things I did. I said, you already told me, and I told you this is not principal material. For that, we have to do these gaps. I see. I said, if you paid me that much money, $15,000 to make your presentation, I think you paid too much. I was like, and good thing. So I had a good thing. I had a contract with him. I had a refund policy with him because he said, hey, I can't help you with this, man, but best of luck that you can do that part. Another guy came this year. Basically, took my one session, second session, said I have an interview coming, and they gave me this project. I'm getting like GitHub. So I was helping look at that. He said, I want you to tell me exact question they'll ask. I said, dude, how do I know? You coach people, right? I said, I do, but I don't know any exact questions they'll ask. A good thing was first 15 minutes. So I said, hey, you know what? I can refund you the money. We don't have to. He said, no. I want to still continue. He continued. Then he came back in the next session. Again, another one. He went to it. He did not get the role. I was telling the guy, he was focused on telling me exact answers. Because what's happening is that when people are doing it, right, they are not, they don't, they don't have confidence on their skill set. So they want cheat codes.
That's it. They want the cheat codes. 100%.
The problem is that if one question is not from a cheat code, I'll tell you an example. When I was in high school, I was there for some exam. And what happened was I went there and what happened, I had chemistry and I knew everything. But I went there and in the room, the teacher said, it's open book. So I got the book. Now I knew the answer, but I was still looking for the answer in the book. Right. And after the first answer I found, I stopped trusting my answers, which I only knew. Now I was just searching for answers in the book.
Interesting. Yeah.
You get it. So that's what happens when you know some cheat codes, you let go of your, because you don't trust your speech anymore.
Correct.
The important thing to understand is that here's what I tell people. This is the motto I live by. We all worry about this and that. Sure. Emotional intelligence. I'm trying to tell you how to program about this part. Number one reason, there are few things you need to have some blind belief in. Without that, it's very hard to move on. I will always have food no matter what. You need to have that. I will always have shelter no matter what. I will always have safety no matter what. Once you understand this piece. I'll give an example. I didn't have a job. I didn't make a single dollar in my first year of my coaching career. And my kitchen money was also gone in few months.
Right.
I still survived. I had food. I was living in California.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Even I went to 6 months from Pakistan. My mom made me great food over there. So I was like still in air conditioned, stuff like that. Big deal. Next year, again, 6 months, Taha Hussain did not make any money. I was still fine. I was growing still fat. I was going fine. So the thing is that we care too much about these things.
Yes.
Find your leg.
Yeah. Find your leg up. No, that's very true. That's very true. I remember when I did the startup thing, I was terrified of being, hungry and homeless. And for 2 years, no income. I spent a lot of money trying to build the startup and I still survived, with a like it was hard. It was difficult, but it's never as life threatening as we fear. Our fears are far more exaggerated than real life ones. But it also drives a certain amount of focus. And I really want people to understand that, your desire for change has to exceed your comfort in being the same. If that balance doesn't exceed, where your desire for the change has to override your desire to be the same, you're not going to change. There is actually no biological imperative to change at that point in time. There's neither a rational one nor a biological one. And so change will not happen. Change requires a certain amount of force to exceed the resistance before that's going to happen. So look, Taha, thank you so much for your time, your generosity, your good humor, the incredible insight and wisdom. I absolutely love your material, your content. I devour it because it makes me be a better person, and it makes me realize there's so many wonderful ways in which we can grow and improve in things that we never thought we were even interested in improving. I think you've made me want to be a better writer. You definitely made me a sharper thinker. So, thank you for all of that. And I'm not even one of your paying customers. So, even without that, I got
Thank you so much, Zubin, for such an amazing introduction and also the end. I mean, this is amazing. You're very kind. I would tell you that I really admire your journey. The reason you and I are talking is because I've been following you since you've started showing up on my feed, and I really love the way you encourage people to take this hard step towards programmers. Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been a real pleasure. And look, when I'm next downstate side or Canada side, I'm going to look you up and we're going to sit down and grab some food and get fat together. Why not?
Awesome. Yeah, let's do that.
All right. I'll see you next time, Taha.
Thank you.
Do it. Just subscribe. You know you got to do it.